Alright guys, today we're going to be learning 5 tips to improve your soldering skills. Alright, the soldering iron I have always used is the Xtronics Pro 3060 Pro Series. It's worked for me and I actually got it a few weeks ago. And I really enjoy it. It's got the helping hands, which they hold your board, and I like that a lot. So that is what I've been using. You can go check out the video in the corner of the review of that soldering station too. Starting us at tip number 1. It isn't always you that does bad at soldering, because maybe you're just starting to learn soldering and you have a bad soldering iron and you don't know it and you think you're bad at it, but you can learn a lot easier and quicker with the better soldering iron or soldering station. I recommend where you can change the temperature, because sometimes they're too hot and maybe they burn your board when you're not soldering wires or something like that. And sometimes too low of a temperature and it won't melt the solder quick enough and you ended up burning your board or something like that. Number 2, recommend using rosin core solder so you don't have to use flux, and if you do use flux it can get messy. By the way, this is the flux. Sometimes you use it for cleaning your tip, and that will be one of your tips. I'll show you how to, one of the tips in the video, I'll show you how to clean your soldering tip. When you're using flux, then it can get kind of messy, and it just is a lot easier using the rosin core. It already has flux inside of it. Tip number 3. Clean your soldering tip. Along with cleaning your tip, before you ever start soldering, you're going to need to tin your tip. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my soldering iron. So I have it all heated up. So what you want to do is just heat up the solder, put a big blob on it, move it around on your soldering tip, and then just wipe it off on your wet sponge. Alright, now let's get into cleaning your soldering iron. Alright, it's very important to always clean your soldering iron after you're done soldering. Sometimes when your soldering iron gets very dirty, I'll show you another way for that, but every time there's too much solder on your iron and you're soldering, let's say I'm soldering right now, I just have to wipe it off on here, get all the solder off. Alright. You can either use a wet sponge or a brass sponge. Alright. To clean your soldering iron, what you gotta do is get some flux, put your soldering tip in the flux, get some on it, put some solder onto your soldering tip, come on. Like that. And then wipe it off. And you repeat this many times until your soldering tip is completely clean the way you like it. Tip number 4. Do not burn your board by holding your soldering iron on the board too long. To prevent from burning your board, what I do is I just put the solder onto the board and then just put the solder onto the pad. Just apply the soldering iron. Like that. Alright. Then clean your tip like the last tip. Or maybe a tip that you're about to notice. Number 5. you may need to use like a fan or something, because breathing in the fumes or smoke that the soldering iron, actually the solder makes when you are soldering, give you a headache, and also especially if you're using lead solder. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. Like and subscribe. See you guys.